Hi, my name is Joe Oliverio. I played football for North Tonawanda High School, and from 1953 to 57, I was varsity starting quarterback from 1954, 55, and 56. And I was inducted into the North Tonawanda Hall of Fame in 1970. I went on to the University of Buffalo and attended the University of Buffalo from 1958 to 1961, played 4 years, and in 1958 team at the University of Buffalo, we won the Lambert Cup and had a bowl bid in which we turned down because of segregation down south. We were supposed to play in a bowl game down south, and they said we could come, of course, if we left our two teammates at home, Mike Wilson and Willie Evans, and of course we chose not to go. I started teaching in 1961 and had junior varsity football coach for 3 years, and then from 1964 to 69 I was the head varsity coach. And my very first year of varsity coach at Lockport, we of course were in the Niagara Frontier League, and we played my old coach, George Vetter. And I don't know if Lockport had only beaten NT one other time. And when I coached, we beat them the very first year 7-6. And of course, that was quite a thrill. And Nick Seaback was with them. I don't know if George Tedder was with them yet, but that was a highlight, of course, of my coaching career.
Talk about your playing career at North Tonawanda.
Well, at North Tonawanda, in my sophomore year, I was fortunate to be starting quarterback with a bunch of terrific players, including Frank Pilata. The Tonawanda game, we won 7-6 in Tonawanda. One of the things that George Vetter did was a great job scouting, but we were given scouting reports at our team meeting before, the day or two before the team we were going to play. And I mean 2 or 3 or 4 page scouting reports with the names and jersey numbers, height and weight of the guys we're going to be playing against, the team we're going to be playing against. And that was an incredible experience. And we beat Tonawanda 7-6 in Tonawanda. It was a Saturday night game. And I remember at Friday's practice, he said, be ready at about 10 o'clock Saturday, be home. I said, what for? He said, just be home. So he comes around 10 o'clock. He's got 2 or 3 of my teammates in there, the center, Dick Fox, a couple other guys, myself. He's got a bag of footballs. He's got a bag of shoes, our shoes. And we go to the Tonawanda field. This is at 10 o'clock in the morning. We're going to play him at night at 7 o'clock. And we put our shoes on, and he said, toss the ball around. He said, Dick, snap some, and you kick a couple of footballs. Joe, stand by the goal line. He says, kick a couple of footballs from there. You notice how the ground is a little, oh my God. I said, wow, this must be important, this game, this Tonawanda game. So we won 7-6, and Mr. Frank Pilata kicked the extra point twice. We had a penalty on the kick. He made it. Now we go back 5 yards. He had to kick it again. He made it again. And we win 7-6. The other thing I remember well about my sophomore year was that Frank was a senior, along with Bobby Urbano, and we had some great players. Frank scored 33 points in a game against Trot. The next day at church, the guy comes up to me as I'm coming out of church. He says, hey, how come you don't give the ball to some of those other guys in the backfield? I said, let me see. Frank scored 50 yards on a screen pass. He ran for 40 yards for a touchdown. He ran for 12 yards for a touchdown. He ran for 8. He scored 5 touchdowns. He kicked 3 extra points. I said, who would you like me to give the ball to? Silence. The other thing I remember great about Frank was at practice. When Frank, first of all, I was 180, as a sophomore, 185 pounds. Frank was about 175, but he ran bent over and nice and low and was a very tough runner. At practice, tackling practice, a couple of dummies were set up, and you were on one side, and one line here, and the guy in this line got to carry the ball through the two bags. The first guy in line here, he had to stand up and head on. The runner had to try to run through the defensive guy. Defensive guy had to try to stop him right there. So we're standing in line, and Frank's on that side of the line. We're the tacklers. We go 1, 2, 3. Frank's 4. We go 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh my God. Josh, switch with me. So what do you think Josh does? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, there's Frank. Nah, he says, I'll stay right here. I did. True story. Frank. Anyways, Frank was great. My junior year was kind of a blur. We beat Tonawanda 27-0 at home. That's not a blur. I remember that very well. Excuse me. My senior year, I remember quite a few things. One, especially the luncheons before the TNT games. Those were terrific. Excuse me. We beat them 7-6 again, and the kicker was Paul Steineck, but he only had to kick it once. It was a great career. George Vetter was amazing. I mean, I learned an awful lot that helped me at UB, and then helped me when I started teaching and coaching. I mean, it was terrific. In my senior year, I think we started out 0-2. And he tells us if we lose one more game, we're going to be the worst team he's ever had. So he calls a meeting during the week for us to come to his house after we're 0-2. And he wants to talk about the problems. And so we're sitting there listening to him, and one of the linemen puts his hand up and says, I know what one of the problems is. I know how to solve one of the. You should make me captain of the line. Vetter looked at him. He said, okay. So then we talked some more about what we needed to do as a team. So the next 6 games, we won 5 out of the next 6 games, and I'm assuming that meeting had a lot to do with it. The other thing that I remember dearly was the clean clothes. The coaches were George Vetter, Ed McGlisco, and John Pluak. Plu kind of was our trainer. The reason I know that was because of my sophomore year, I had my hand stepped on in Lockport. We were playing poorly. I think we were losing 6-0. And little did I know that I had a broken bone here, but I had a big gash. So Vetter wouldn't talk to us. We're in the locker room. Pluak grabs a bottle of witch hazel, grabs my hand. He looks me in the eyes. He says, you guys were terrible. Takes the witch hazel, pours it right into the, oh my God. I said, John, cut it out. He said, you're going to play better the second half? I said, yes, coach, yes, we are. Well, we won 7-6. Dave Brogan was on that team. He caught the touchdown pass to win the game. And we both went to UB, and he was a great athlete. And he had a 4-year career at UB, 3 sports, and I'm glad he came to UB. But the other thing about the clean clothes is that we had wash machines and dryers, I guess, and every day at practice we would get a clean t-shirt, a clean jacket, a clean pair of socks. They were ours, but they were washed and they were bundled. And at every game we got new socks, new jacket, new t-shirt. I mean, it was really amazing, especially when I got to UV to find out that not every high school did that. So it was pretty special.
Talk about the tradition of North Tonawanda football then.
Pardon?
Talk about the tradition of North Tonawanda football in that era.
Well, it's the interesting thing also was that it was the only sport in the fall, in the 50s, probably into the 60s too. There was no soccer, there was no cross country, no hockey. If you played a sport at NT High School in the fall, it was football. As far as the tradition in town, I mean, that's all we thought. That's all we thought about was playing high school football at NT. watching guys like Ray Malone and DiAgostino and just a whole bunch of Luke Hosen and all those great athletes. Myers punting the football. Ray Malone was a pretty special guy and was a neighbor and a dear friend. But the story of the tradition is that I graduated, for me, I graduated from Ascension's parochial school. And at the end of the 8th grade, Father Hayes says, where are you going to school, Joe? I said, North Tonawanda. Boom, he kicks me in the shin. I said, well, what's that for? He said, why are you going to North Tonawanda? I said, I want to play football in North Tonawanda. Well, but about Canisius or St. Joe's? So I moved way over here, and he says, where are you going to go to high school? I says, North Tonawanda. But this time I was away from his leg. Oh, there was no question. I wasn't gonna, I mean, Canisius and St. Joe's were wonderful, but I wanted to go to North Tonawanda High School, where there was just, that's where George Vedder was, and that's where the guys in the neighborhood played before me. It was wonderful.
Talk about your UB career.
Well, there was a guy named Gordy Bucati from Lackawanna. We played against each other. Sam Sanders from Kenmore played against each other. Jerry Gergley, we all ended up at UB, along with a great freshman class. We couldn't play varsity. We had a freshman team, and we played 4 games, and we won all 4 games. In my sophomore year, that was the Lambert Cup year, and we had a group of about 35 guys that were on scholarship, and we were kind of the first class that had a full scholarship team like that. And Gordy Bucati also went to UB, and we were the 2 quarterbacks running. There were about 4 of us, but for the starting position. So I managed to start the first game, and then he played a number of the games along with me. And we, of course, opened up with Harvard, and we beat them, and went on to be 8-1 and win the Lambert Cup and have the bowl bid. And it's kind of history that we voted not to go, and we made history by not going. And then in my junior year, we were 8-1 again. So the freshman class that we brought in 1957, we were 4-0, 8-1, 8-1. We were 20 wins and 2 losses after the first 3 years.
Do you think after turning down the Lambert, you were the Lambert Cup winners and turning down the bowl, that the following year and the year after that, you were sort of blacklisted, that they didn't want you again?
Well, that's
because of this?
Interesting that you said that. You must have a little knowledge of that. You know about the coach from Delaware, the Blue Hens?
No, I don't.
University of Delaware?
But it just seemed awkward that a team that had so much success in subsequent years after 1958 were virtually ignored.
It turns out that the head coach of Delaware, University of Delaware, his name was Nelson, and he was on a committee, the Lambert Cup committee, along with the Lambert Cup family, that we find out the next year, University of Delaware had a very good year. We had an excellent year. The story that we heard was that he told the committee, there's no sense giving it to UV because they still have a black player on the team, and if they get another bowl bid, they're just going to turn it down again and embarrass us. This is kind of the way I heard it. And so we thought we should have won the Lambert Cup again, and we thought we should have had another bowl bid. But as far as being blackballed, that could very well be the case, and this sounds like it might have been.
You graduate from UB, and then you take a teaching position in Lockport. And from what you've told me, you started off coaching, either freshman or JV football in the early 60s, and then 1964 you became the varsity head coach at Lockport, and then you coached against George Vedder. Talk about how it felt to coach against George Vetter, or were you extra motivated to do well against him? Or because the man was very prepared. He always had his teams prepared.
Yeah, he taught me well too. I was prepared too. There's a great story about how we beat him. We had a couple of things happen that was good. First of all, there's what kind of motivation do you need when you're playing against your old coach? You know, my players and my team knew that I was motivated, and they certainly were too. We, knowing North Tonawanda's offense, single wing, pulling guards, you know, I had a halfback by the name of Smokey Santillo that was about 185 pounds, weightlifter, not very tall, but he also ran track. He was a linebacker, but for the North Tonawanda game, I made him a defensive lineman and lined up right over the guard and told Smokey, he says, that guard is going to pull, and in the direction he pulls is where the play's going. I says, you get in his hip pocket and follow him. I'm trying to think of the running back for NT. Might have been Fred Wiechek, maybe back then, 64. Mm-hmm. And on 3 occasions, Smokey got into NT's backfield, 3 tackles for a total of 20 yards and losses, which obviously helped to win the game. The other thing is that we kicked our extra point. North Tonawanda missed their extra point. The reason they missed their extra point was my player, backup quarterback, linebacker, who kicked the extra point, Jack Coyle. This is the one that blocked NT's. He happened to be, he's a substitute linebacker. My linebacker, the starting linebacker, was hurt. Coyle was in as a substitute for that play. And North Tonawanda's center would cock his head before he would snap the ball. And he would lift his head and shoulders up. And I was talking to my starting linebacker, and I suggested to him, when you see that head go up, you take off. This is before we get on the bus by the locker room. Sitting in the bus with the window open with his arm out, Jack Coyle, the kid that's going to block the extra point. Little did I know he was listening as I was telling can you imagine, the starting linebacker. Instead of telling the whole team at a meeting, I decided, it struck me that I would tell Smokey Santillo. Jack Coyle's listening. After the game's over, I'm congratulating Jack Coyle. I said, you did a great job. You watched it. I said, how did you know about that? Well, he says, I heard you telling Smokey Santillo as I was sitting on the bus. I said, wonderful. George was very, 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 how can I say, very congratulatory, of course. And I'm not sure if he was happy that he lost, but he was happy for me. But the other thing was, there's one more situation in that game, and that's the middle guard on defense by the name of, probably a Hall of Famer, Stoltman. I think Stoltman might be in the Hall of Fame. He was a center. He was a shot putter, discus, and he was like about 210, 215, and he's over the top of our center. During the season, scouting, I noticed that he would go offside almost every game. And back in those days, you could wind up with the flipper. You could wind up and throw a blow, not with your fist, but with your forearm. Every single game, he would go offside, 5-yard penalty. Guess what the result was to the center on the other team? He was groggy. Now he's looking out of the corner of his eye for, is this kid going to hit me again? So for our game, I tell our center, it's going to happen. I said, you're going to get hit. He's going to go offside. I'll tell the referees, but the officials, but there's nothing they're going to be. You just have to be ready. Sure as heck, boom, he goes offside, catches my guy under the center. Off he has to come over for repairs. He's sitting on the bench. The game's going on. We're winning 7-6. 4 minutes ago in the game, I said to the doctor, I said, how's he doing? Is he okay? Can he go in to snap for the punt? That's about 4 minutes to go in the game. We're backed up to about our 20-yard line. All we got to do is punt the football and hold NT. Bruce, you think you can snap the ball? Yes, coach, yes, coach. And he goes, snaps the ball. We kick it to about the 50, we hold them, we win the game. I mean, you know, memories, I can never forget any of those things.
You brought a list of things. Are there things on there that you want to talk about that we have not touched upon?
I think I covered just about everything.
If you were meeting someone off the street, you talked about North Tonawanda football, what would you tell them?
That we were a well-coached team, and every kid in town wanted to play football for North Tonawanda High School. We had 3 terrific coaches in Better, McGlisco, and Kluak. We had a great program. The whole school was behind us, and everybody in town wanted to know how the game went after the game. My uncles were sitting on the porch on Robinson Street waiting for me after 12 o'clock mass. They wanted to know about the game. It was great. Very lucky, very fortunate to be able to.
I want to thank you for coming in and sharing on this conversation and your story. What would you like to add that we haven't talked about?
Well, I think the North Tonawanda Football Hall of Fame and the committee are doing a wonderful job keeping the tradition going, and I'm very proud to have played at NT and proud to be a member of the NT Football Hall of Fame.